Hey, how's it going? This is Robert Gallagher with the Creative Collective Alliance, and we're going through Principle 2 in the Conscious Creative Handbook. And we stopped off with the introduction. And we were going through belief validation. If someone believed they're a procrastinator, how would they support this belief? How would they take unconscious action on a daily basis to confirm what they believe to be true about themselves? We touched on procrastination as being an external symptom of resistance, and we're resistant to taking action that disproves what we believe to be true about ourselves. And then we brought up at the end of the introduction, beginning to honor the voice of our intuition. So, for example, if we're just someone who's prone to just letting dishes stack up in the sink all week long until there's nothing left to clean, and then we make a mad sweep when there's nothing left, there's no more clean dishes, and the only way we're going to have a clean dish is to wash the dishes. We begrudgingly go through and we clean all the dishes and then start the cycle all over again. But in a moment, if we're going through the kitchen and we throw a dish in the sink, and this quiet voice of our intuition chimes in and says, "Hey, why don't you just clean all those dishes right now?" What do you tell that voice? Do you honor it, or do you toss the dish in there and continue on about your way? Well, in our experience in the conscious creators, if we take the time to honor that voice and to do what it suggests, over time what starts to happen is we start to build new thought pathways in our mind. We start to dissolve our core self-defeating beliefs, which have resulted in undue pain and misery and unfulfillment. And we grow as conscious creators. And then over time, honoring that voice of our intuition, these new moments slowly become our new reality. Pretty soon our house is clean, we have projects that are completed, we're no longer slobs, we're no longer procrastinators. All of these beliefs and these thought patterns that support these beliefs have basically been dissolved, and we've established new thought patterns in our mind to replace the old ones. Now this works, and I can speak to you from personal experience, it works with anything. And then slowly over time that becomes our reality. But this can only happen if we focus on the voice of our intuition. After all, there are two or more voices in most of our heads. They tell us different stuff. They invoke different emotional responses. The purpose of Principle 2 is to begin to make the distinction and open our mind to intuitive guidance and have a personal experience with it. Once we have personally experienced becoming intuitively guided by our being, we can decide for ourselves. So I ask you again, are you open to this possibility? Are you open to the possibility that you too could form an intuitive relationship with your being, and you could act upon intuitive guidance as opposed to reacting upon the internal voice of fear and control that leads us down dead ends time and time again? If you're open to the possibility that you could be guided by a voice of internal love and truth, we can continue on with this. If you're not really open to it and you believe that the voice of fear and control that dominates your mind is the only voice that you can adhere to, then in our experience what's going to have to happen is you're going to have to hit a personal bottom. You're going to have to bottom out with the behaviors, and you're going to have to bottom out with listening to that voice of fear and control. And once you've had enough and you can't stand it anymore and you're so miserable that you just can't live another day with your mind being cluttered with all this stuff, these ghosts of Christmas past, so to speak, then you'll open your mind up to intuitive guidance. But intuitive guidance is definitely there. It's definitely an option for us, and it will serve us in ways that we can't even imagine. As we begin to distinguish the voices in our head, we can decide which one to act upon. Now, generally speaking, these different voices in our head both serve different masters. One voice serves our individual truth and love's expression, while the other voice serves the limiting powers of fear and control. Now, when I say individual truth, when we say individual truth, what do we mean? Well, individual truth is our relationship with infinite intelligence. And the way that we could look at it is that we're all individual tool brushes, or paintbrushes, or tools, hanging in some cosmic shed, and we each have our unique mode of expression. We all have our unique chemical combination. We both have We all have our unique perspective. We have a unique way of being loved and structuring our relationships. We have a unique uh, inclination to express ourselves creatively, to work. Some of us are very detail-oriented. Some of us are, extroverted frontmen in bands. But we all have these inborn qualities within us that need to be, number one, harnessed, and number two, nurtured. And without doing that, without honoring them, without harnessing them, without nurturing them, they fall by the wayside and we become these mimics. We become these characters that are just regurgitating stuff that we've learned along the way, oftentimes in our more formative years of development. Okay, so in beginning to understand where these different voices find their power, let's first take a look at what it means to be a human being. What is a human being? We're called human beings for a reason. Let's take a minute to define both of these words to gain a clear understanding of who we are as self-individualized beings. We define human as being susceptible to the frailty and limitation of physical life. We define being as one's undisturbed fundamental essence. In order to fully understand our being, one's undisturbed fundamental essence, we first must understand our more human or individualized aspect. Now let's take a closer look. Humans are individualized and express themselves through the use of both actions and words. Each human has a body that is controlled by senses such as sight, smell, hearing, and touch. Each individualized human has a self that manifests a character. This character reflects and expresses all of the life experiences of that individualized self. This character often seeks to validate what it believes to be true about life based on what it has personally experienced. The self and its character are influenced by other people, parents or caregivers, and by events and situations that we have experienced in the past. These events cause us to create particular ideas and beliefs. Some of those are self-defeating in nature and lead to unfulfillment, and those are the ones we're addressing here in this guidebook, handbook. Each of these experiences literally leaves an impression. It registers a thought impression in our subconscious and establishes and reinforces thought patterns in our mind. It's the totality of these experiences is what influences our character. Another word for our individualized self's character could be ego. The term ego often has a limiting connotation attached to it. Our ego is like a mini-me of self, a concentration of the dominating thoughts and beliefs that our self holds to be true. We talk about the ego in the third person as if it were not really a part of us, but rather this little pet that we have to constantly tolerate and work to get along with. For the purposes of these principles, the concept of ego is in line with what we call the unconscious character. When supporting fearful, self-defeating thoughts and beliefs, we refer to the individual character as an unconscious character. We define unconscious as lacking awareness of the effects one's thoughts are having on their subjective human experience. When intuitively guided by our being and supporting thoughts and beliefs that are not life-affirming and loving, this character tends to be when intuitively guided by our being and supporting thoughts and beliefs that are not life-affirming and loving, this character tends to be a conscious character. Conscious, having awareness of the effects one's thoughts are having on their subjective human experience. Okay, now coming into this process, most of us lack the sort of conscious awareness needed to see beyond our self-defeating thought patterns and beliefs. In fact, we were ruled by them. They colored our perception of reality. They often brought about irrational fear, anxiety, depression, resistance, apathy, and rage. Clearly within our minds, most of us were ruled by an unconscious character. Of course, none of us were aware of this. We lacked the awareness of the literal thoughts and beliefs we supported that brought this character to life. Nobody's individual character is always totally conscious or unconscious. Gurus and stone-cold killers alike, nobody is as perfect or as imperfect as they seem. Most of us experience moments throughout our day when we are aware, we are present, and understand clearly the motivation behind the actions we take. We define motivation as a motivating force, stimulus, or influence, incentive, drive. Okay, we know our motivating force. We know what stimulus influences us and how. We are present and open, but then there are these other moments when we are anything but aware. We are hardly present. We have no clue. We have no clue why irrational fear has compelled us to react once more. We find ourselves saying, I don't know why this is happening again. Now, these are the moments that we're actually focused on trying to augment, change, and bring other moments into reality that bring about fulfillment and our life fulfillment. There are many moments in which we unknowingly support fear and control. These are the moments where we are often also unfulfilled. So what makes all these moments so different? What brings on the overwhelming need to control some of our moments? What triggers our descent into irrational fear? Well, this has to do with the mindset we possess. It has to do with the beliefs we support. It also has to do with our experiences from the past. All of these are factors that determine the way we respond or react to our moments. We define react as to behave or change in a particular way when something happens, is said, etc. Now, often this particular way is self-defeating and automatic, as in we do not really have a choice about it. We become triggered and experience a marked change in feeling and mindset. Our reactions are knee-jerk and irrational. In these moments, we are literally powerless because we lack awareness of what thought pattern triggered our reaction. We define respond as a present and conscious response to a moment as it unfolds. Respond literally means to become responsible for our thoughts and actions in any moment. We see objectively and respond to our moments accordingly. Now let's take a closer look at the unconscious character and how it manifests. We'll do that in the next video.